Hello again, everyone. Today I'm here with a 15mm acrylic marker showdown between different brands. You may notice that one of these is not a 15mm. That's because this is the only Posca marker that I had that's brand new, so that we can see how they start compared to the other brands. This one has already been used, so it is not it's not ready to be started for the first time. So I'm going to try that comparison with this smaller one, which is an 8mm. So the rest of these three here are brand new and have not been used yet. So I have a Montana marker, I have a Liquitex marker, I have a Molotow marker, and then I have a Posca marker. So I really do think that these are kind of the larger brands that have acrylic markers. There's obviously a lot of different acrylic markers out there, but these are probably the main larger brands. So let's go ahead and get right into it and get started. Okay, I'm going to put this one off to the side for now, along with the other Posca marker, and then we can start with these. So I'm going to start with the Molotow markers. So these are the ones that I have really been loving lately, and they go down really smoothly, they start really easily and don't burp. So that's nice. I did get a tip from a viewer, which I think I will try for the first time today, is to push down the tip when the marker is upside down so that there's no ink flowing through. The viewer who said that it might relieve the pressure in the marker. So I'm actually going to do that to all of the brand new markers just to give them an even playing field. Plus it'll let me see if that actually works because I have not tried it yet. All right, so with all of these, I'm going to give them a bit of a shake beforehand. And this notebook is my usual testing notebook for most mixed media sources. It's the Pentalic Field Book, which is filled with watercolor paper. And okay, so this is Molotow. This color is neon pink, and it's the 15mm. And this brand is made in Germany. They're much cheaper on stores like Jackson's. For me in the United States, it's much cheaper for me to get them there than to get them in a local art shop. But your mileage may vary depending on where you are in the world. All right, so let me go ahead and take this cap off. So I broke the seal here, so it should be pretty easy to open. All right, so what I'm going to do now, because it's upright, because this is where the ink will come out, I'm going to push it in. Oh, I did hear a little bit of a pressure release. Interesting. Okay, well, maybe I have learned something that will make all of my markers operate better. All right, now I'm going to push down. I'm going to push this down so that the ink can go to the tip. This way you'll also be able to see how long it takes for each marker. And I have no idea if that initial priming will make it so that it takes longer for the ink to go down into the nib. It does seem to be taking a little while. Let's see. Oh, wow. That is taking a really long while. Normally, it's not that long. I wonder if releasing that pressure actually makes it so that the ink does not go down into the marker. We will test this with the other ones. And there's no seal here. Oh, I finally see some color coming through. There's no seal up top, so there's nothing that would block the ink from coming down. Yeah, it's finally coming down. You can see this little tiny spot here. But this is longer than it's taken me before to prime these markers. Yeah, so there you can see more coming down. Usually I wiggle it back and forth, but I honestly don't know if that does anything. Maybe pumping it would be a better idea. You know, you get into these habits and then you don't really know why you do them. Do they help? I don't know. Okay, so pumping a little bit seems to be making it go faster. This is also a fluorescent color, so I'm not sure if that has, like, the viscosity of the fluorescent colors are different than the normal markers, but we're definitely getting some flow here. Okay, and once it's all filled, I will do a swatch here, and then we'll move on to the next one. We're almost there, I promise. But this shows you how long it will take for the marker nib to fill. We're almost there now. And like I said, this does seem longer than most other markers, and I do wonder if releasing that pressure made a difference. It's certainly not flooding the page, which is good because that is something I really don't like about some markers. I've had that experience with Posca before where the marker has kind of flooded the page. All right, so I think we're good here. And I'm just gonna go from where I am just because I've already primed it there. And let's do that. Let's do all the different sides here. Okay, so we get good coverage. Some colors are going to be more translucent than others. In fact, fluorescent colors tend to be a little bit more translucent than other colors. So I wouldn't, because I didn't have the same colors in all of these, I wouldn't read too much into the opacity of these. But that did lay down really smoothly. There's no skips anywhere. It did take a little while to fill, but let's move on to, or to prime, but let's move on to the next one, which is this Montana marker. Oh, and also one of the differences between these 4 brands too is Molotow and Montana are both refillable. I do not believe the Liquitex is, but I know that the Posca is not meant to be. There's a lot of ways you can use your marker after the fact, after it's worn out, but okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Definitely a little bit of a pressure release again, so this is working out pretty well. All right, I'm going to put this down. I'm just pushing down the nib. And again, we're not getting a whole lot of ink coming through or paint coming through. So essentially these are filled with acrylic ink viscosity paint. I'm not sure if they're exactly the same as acrylic ink. I think they're pretty darn close if they're not exactly the same, but their consistency is about the same. But it's nice that it has the even tip. Okay, now this one is also taking a while, and this is very, very interesting. So in the past, when I have not done that little push of the nib when it's upside down, things have, okay, so here we go. We got a little bit of color coming. Things have flowed much faster into the nib. So I wonder if that little bit of pressure actually does help fill the nib. But we'll see, we'll see. Okay, but I do want to do the same thing with all of them so that they are given a fair shake. And one thing that I'm already noticing about this Montana marker, I actually don't have any other Montana markers. This is my first one. There you go, it's feeling pretty good now. I noticed that the tip is shaped a little differently than the Molotow. And I think because the Molotow, the Posca, and the Liquitex tips are shaped pretty much the same as far as I can tell. But I will show you the individual tips compared towards the end here. Okay, so we're getting there, and I'm definitely noticing a little bit more leakage around the edge with this one. See how there's a little bit of ink flooding the page there? I have never had that experience with Molotow. This flooding is nowhere near as bad as it could be, but you can even see that there's some basically dripping ink and paint off of the nib. So that's something that I don't like with acrylic markers, but I'm willing to forgive it if on a regular basis it doesn't do that. But whenever your nib runs, oh, see, there you go, there's a drop of ink falling. Whenever your nib runs a little dry, you might have to prime it again and you might have the same problem. But in any case, let's go ahead and run this across the page. So it draws really, really nicely. And you can see that this is narrower than this on the more narrow side, but it's the same otherwise. Okay, and it's going to have a narrower thing, and you can't get as tiny of a mark on the side either. Okay, so very interesting. We're going to get different marks from this. So like I said, this one is a little bit more curved rather than flat on the others, but I will do a comparison of those towards the end of this video. Okay, so we have the Montana, we have the Molotow, and now I'm going to move on to the Liquitex, which is a different color. Oh, so the first one was neon pink with the Molotow, and then this one with the Montana marker is, let's see, pink light. It says SH, so I'm not quite sure what SH stands for. SH pink light. It also says rose pale, so it could go by different numbers. And I think this one is made in the United States. I think. Let's see. Yeah, the tip is also replaceable on this one. I'm not seeing an indication of where this is made. This could actually be Canadian, now that I'm thinking. Let's see. Made in Japan. Okay, well that's very interesting. I did not know that this was made in Japan. So we have one made in Germany and one made in Japan. That does kind of explain why this marker is a little bit more expensive, but you can also already see that there's a splash on the inside lid here, and that to me means that there's not as good a seal at the nib point as there is with the Molotow, which are still my favorite. And also here in this mark, you can see a little bit of pooling here. And I'm not sure if that's because there was just some pooling ink on the page when I drew it back, or if that would have happened just with a normal mark. And you might notice some little bubbles here. That sometimes happens as well. I don't mind them because I just kind of go with the flow with my mixed media work and don't really worry about little imperfections or what might be considered imperfections like that. Sorry, I have a little bit of dust in there I'm trying to get out. And then there's a little one here, but there seems to be less bubbling here than on this one. And then this Liquitex is Prussian blue hue, and I'm pretty sure that this is made in the United States. It says New Jersey, distribution in Europe. So I do think they have, oh no, made in Germany. That's very interesting. I always thought Liquitex was an American brand, but I guess it's not. And then the Poscas are made in Japan. So we're essentially having a German versus Japanese marker contest here. So far, Germany wins on these two. Let's see. Okay, so I've shaken this up. I'm gonna open that up, and you can see that it's more squared off than the last one. Oh, and I wanna make sure that I release that pressure. Yep, and again, I heard that little bit of a poof there. All right, and all of these have taken a little bit of time to get to the nib, the ink has. And I'm going to test the larger Posca marker that I have, and then I'm going to start the other one that has not been used that's a little smaller. So it's not going to be a direct comparison, but it will kind of give you an idea of how fast it takes to fill. So that's already coming down now. And I wanted to do this in real time so that you can see how long they take. And I do think it's taken less time when I didn't do that little press on the nib. Okay, so that's coming down. So this is definitely not a color comparison because all of the colors are different, but it should give you an indication of some of the different qualities of these. Okay, we're almost there. See, it's coming down pretty good. And I really do like the Liquitex markers because I think they have the same formula in their marker that they have in their acrylic ink. But like I said, I don't think you can refill these. They do sell empty markers, but I don't think you can refill them. But I could be wrong on those. Okay, so there we go. We're all there, and there's no pooling like there was on this one. So let's go ahead and go down here. Oh, there's a little bit of skipping there at the end. That could also be the way I'm holding it. Okay, so this is something that I've found. It doesn't necessarily draw as evenly, the Liquitex markers, because this is actually something that I have noticed before with the other Liquitex markers that I've used. Okay, but you can definitely get some different marks here. What did I not do? I think that's pretty much it. So you're not getting as smooth lines and it can skip more. Here, I'll try and make sure that I lay it really, really flat. And see, even with that, you're getting a little bit of skippage in between, but it also depends on how you hold it. All right, so now I'm just gonna do a test on this Uni Posca pink marker. This is the 15mm. It's already primed. So I'm just gonna do a little sample here. That's very, very smooth. But on the side, maybe not as much. Let me actually do that again. Yeah, I'm still getting a little bit of skipping on the side. Okay, so there's all the different marks you can make with that. And now I am going to use this smaller marker and see how long it takes to prime this one. And this is a chisel tip. So although it's not as big as these, it's the second largest that Posca makes, I believe. Actually, I forgot to shake this up thoroughly, so let me do that. Okay, and Posca is one of the markers that I have historically had trouble with flooding when I'm priming the nib. So let me go ahead and push this down like I did the others. Okay, heard a little bit of a pressure release. So let's see how long that takes. I really do wonder if doing that at the beginning makes the ink flow a little less quickly, because normally these Posca markers fill pretty quickly. Okay. And I really do like this size of marker as well. I've kind of gravitated towards the larger nibbed markers. Oh, still no ink there. Let's see. Let's see if I press it a little bit. I've been gravitating towards the larger markers these days. Oh, I see a little bit coming. Okay. Because you can't really get uptight and precise with a really big marker. You kind of just have to go with the marks that the marker's making. All right, so that's flowing down, you can see. And hopefully we can, so maybe, given how slow this is, you know, maybe it is kind of indicative of the same kind of flow that you would get on the larger marker. But it seems like so far, the only one of the three that were new that I had a little bit of flooding problems with was the Montana marker. And that's a brand I have never used before. So I didn't really have any expectations of how that would go. Okay, so we're almost there with this marker. All right. So that, there was no flooding. That works really well. Really smooth lines. And again, you can do the side or the tip, or those are about the same. Okay. So I would say after this, my favorite has not changed. It is still the Molotow marker. They just flow really well. There's a really even coverage. They don't flood. And even when I'm priming them later, I don't have any flooding issues. This one is still my favorite brand, and it's probably going to be my preferred brand going forward. However, I'm kind of surprised at how this Posca marker did, because normally I do get some flooding with Posca markers. So I do think that that tip of pushing down the marker nib when it's upright to release some pressure was probably a good one. So thank you, viewer. I won't single you out because I don't know if you want that, but thank you for that tip. Because now I would say of these, this one is now my second favorite, just because of the evenness of flow and the non-flooding. The marker that I've been using for a little while, you did get some uneven edges on the Posca. That could also be that it actually needed to be primed. So actually, let's see. Oops. Yeah, but you can even see, like this is, oh no, I've gotten that on my mat too. Oh, see? this mat is going to be good and marked up before long. So you can see as I opened it, how it kind of flicked some paint around, and that's because there is paint in the cap. That is not something I like to have. So you can see that it was leaking a little bit in the cap. And this is one that I've had open for a little while, so maybe pressure builds up again. The nice thing about the ink is you can then use the cap like that. I'm going to put it on my napkin there. So I did want to push down a little bit again so that we can see if we would get more regular, yeah, we would get more regular lines. So I do think that this little bit of, oh, I want to make sure I do that over this. Oh my God, that is a lot of ink. So this is kind of one of the reasons why I'm not that crazy about the Posca markers. It's not my first choice because there is some leaking issues, and that's consistent with what I've experienced before. So far, nothing on this one. Okay, I will pull out that Posca again to compare the tips. But it looks like if you're having this issue, you can just prime it again and it should be good. I find that the flow on the Liquitex markers is not as consistent, and this has been consistent with what I have seen in my prior use of these. But their colors are really nice, and it actually looks like this might have gotten a little bit better as it sat, although you're still getting a little bit of skipping there. So this is probably my third favorite. So I'd say Molotow, Posca, then Liquitex, and then, you know, maybe I would change my mind after using some different sizes or whatever, but the Montana marker is indeed my least favorite. So just based on this performance here. All right, oh, and you can see, so this is developing some bubbles here, and that's going to create a little bit of leaking ink. One nice thing though is if you do have sort of a really wet tip and the ink is going to the tip really, really well, you can do splatters from your marker pretty easily. I'm not going to do it here because I'm on a leather mat, but what you can do is you can essentially, you know, prime it really well and then throw the marker at the page and you will get splatters. I would recommend doing that where you can get messy. Okay, so now I'm going to compare the tips. So as you can see, this one is a little more rounded. Okay, let me put these up here and I'll open the other two. And I'm going to watch out again with that one because that one does seem to be leaking. All right. So actually let me rearrange these. The three on the right tend to have more of a similar shape. It looks like the Liquitex actually has the most solid tip, as in it doesn't look like it's fuzzing too much at all. The other three look like they're fuzzing a little bit more, but the three on the right are very similar in shape. They might just have some slight variations in the angles there, but this Montana marker does have quite a bit of a curve in there at the end, and they're going to look fairly similar on their sides. But when you look at them this way, yeah, you probably get a sharper angle with the Liquitex and your most rounded angle with the Montana marker. All right. Oh, and I have to really make sure not to get that pink ink from that Posca everywhere. And this has just been sitting in a box where I keep all my markers when I'm using them. And it has not, make sure I'm using the same marker for the same thing. And it has not had trouble. I mean, hasn't really been agitated at all. So that's kind of interesting. Ooh. See, this is why I end up having huge messes all over my hands. Okay. But that is, those are the comparisons of the markers. So here we have the Molotow, which is my favorite. We have the Montana. Here we have the Posca, and here we have the Liquitex. So it really just depends on, first off, you know, what colors you like, because they do have different colors across the different lines of markers, and you know, what quality you're looking for in your line. And they do come in smaller versions, all but the Montana. I think this is their largest size. And I think the Liquitex only comes in a couple of sizes, one large like this one and then a smaller one. Posca comes in a variety of sizes, so does the Molotow. But the Montana actually has some bigger markers than this, which could be appealing if you want to get really super big marks. I've heard that the super big ones do have a little bit of flow issues and can get clogged, so just keep that in mind. But you do have more variety in larger sizing with the Montana. All right, well, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Let me know if you want more direct comparison videos like this for any particular product. This just, you know, I had some acrylic markers that came in and I thought, oh, I have several different brands that I could compare. So that was just sort of a spur of the moment kind of thing. But if you have any preferences, please leave them down below. If you leave comments down below, I will answer them when I can. And I hope to see you next time. But in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.